If a mutation had knocked off 2 fingers 300,000 years ago, you'd be reading this in base 8 math, and modern computing might have arrived 100 years earlier. We count in base 10. We have 10 digits from 0 to 9, and we use them to build every number in the universe. 10 holds no special mathematical power. It is a purely biological accident. We use base 10 entirely because you have 5 fingers on each hand. And if you look at the fossil record, even that was kind of a coin toss. Roughly 365 million years ago, an early tetrapod called Acanthostega hauled itself through weed-filled swamps. It was one of the first vertebrates to develop recognizable limbs, and it had 8 perfectly formed digits on each front limb. Evolution eventually pruned our ancestors down to 5. But if that pruning had stopped at 4, our entire mathematical foundation would have aligned perfectly with the physics of computing. 10 is actually a pretty clumsy number to build a civilization on. You can have it once to get 5, and then you're stuck. You can't divide it by 3 or 4 cleanly. Historically, we didn't always worship 10. The ancient Babylonians flirted with base 60, which is why we still have 60 seconds in a minute. The Yuki people, an indigenous group from Northern California, built a native base 8 counting system. They simply counted the spaces between their fingers. If you hold your hands out and count the gaps, you get exactly 8. But across most of the world, counting the physical fingers won. Base 10 became the operating system of human math, and for centuries, that was fine. Why did engineers in the 1940s spend vast amounts of money forcing machines to count to 10? Machines have switches. They have circuits that are either on or off, open or closed. They speak base 2 or binary. If you want to represent a number in base 10 using binary switches, the math gets messy. There is no clean overlap. 10 is not a power of 2. It sits awkwardly between 8 and 16. When you type the number 255 into a calculator today, the machine can't just store that number. It has to actively run an algorithm to convert your base 10 input into the binary string 11,111,111. How much computing power does the world burn every single day just translating human 10s into machine 2s? Early on, it was enough to seriously bottleneck system speeds. Every single time a user input a number, the computer had to pause and translate it. But base 8 is completely different. 8 is exactly 2 to the 3rd power. In a base 8 system, which programmers call octal, every single digit maps cleanly to exactly 3 binary bits. The number 7 is 111, and 5 is 101. The translation between human math and machine math is frictionless. There is no conversion layer. You just read the numbers straight across. If we had 8 fingers, we would have built that alignment into everything from the start. Look at Charles Babbage. In 1837, he described his design for the analytical engine. It was a mechanical computer built from brass gears and running on steam. It was a genius machine, probably 100 years ahead of its time. It had a store for memory and a mill for processing, just like a modern CPU. But Babbage was a human who thought in tens, so he gave his number gears 10 teeth. His design called for the memory to hold 1,000 numbers, each up to 40 decimal digits long. That required massive arrays of vertical columns stacked with 10 toothed brass gears. The machine was heavy and complex because Babbage forced it to perform base 10 arithmetic. Every time a gear turned past 9, it had to mechanically trigger the next gear to step forward. The physical friction of all those gears grinding together was immense. Babbage never finished building it. The precise machining required for all those 10 position gears overwhelmed the manufacturing technology of his day. A single gear being slightly out of alignment would jam the entire 40-digit calculation. If Babbage had been thinking in base 8, the mechanical complexity drops. He might have realized his mechanical gears only needed to represent binary states, because translating base 8 down to base 2 is highly intuitive. A machine built on simple binary levers is vastly easier to manufacture than one relying on precise 10-position rotation. 100 years later, on February 15, 1946, engineers dedicated the ENIAC. It was the first general-purpose electronic computer, and it filled an entire room with roughly 18,000 vacuum tubes. And how did those engineers make it count? They built something called ring counters. They literally wired 10 vacuum tubes together in a circle just to represent a single digit from 0 to 9. One tube was on, and 9 were off. To add a number, the electrical pulse stepped around the ring, tube by tube. The ENIAC could process 5,000 addition problems in 1 second, but the underlying architecture was a mechanical nightmare translated into electronics. They used enormous amounts of electrical power and physical space, forcing lightning to count on 10 invisible fingers. And that's the part that gets me. Even when computers finally went fully binary, engineers still fought human biology. For decades, the computing industry relied on something called binary coded decimal. Early IBM mainframes would take a 4-bit chunk of binary and use it to represent a single digit from 0 to 9. But 4 bits can hold 16 different values. By artificially capping it at 10 to match our hands, they threw away 6 possible states. They literally wasted over 30% of their computer's memory capacity just to keep the math looking familiar to our monkey brains. If human culture was natively base 8, those translation layers and wasted memory states vanish. Early transistor engineers wouldn't have wasted time and hardware trying to simulate human hands. They would have just built base 8 architecture natively. The leap from counting in 8s to calculating in binary is a small, natural step. We might have had the digital revolution decades earlier. In a base 8 world, you can have a unit of currency over and over until you hit a whole number. Our measurement systems would scale effortlessly. Even music theory already leans this way. We call it an octave because a musical scale naturally repeats after 8 notes. The only real downside to an 8-finger world is biology. Fewer fingers means a weaker grip. The evolutionary path that gave us 5 fingers on each hand made us very good at holding branches, and later, very good at holding tools. We needed those 10 fingers to build hammers and wire the first computers. The hardware that made you human also trapped you in a math that slows down your machines. Our hands built the digital world, but their shape is why it took so long for you.